Welcome, everybody. My name is Jennifer McGuire, and I'm the Deputy Director over Administration here at Fiscal. And I want to thank you for joining us today. This is a great turnout. Aligned with the administration's goal of providing state employees with the opportunity to telework in some capacity, Fiscal was one of the state's first departments to pilot its staff to permanent telework. When the shift to permanent telework was being planned, the department recognized that it could reduce approximately 50% of its leased space and still accommodate staff who needed to be on site. So by reducing our space and adopting a hoteling concept, Fiscal needed a user-friendly solution to enable our staff to reserve a workspace, maintain socially distance, and capture data that could be used for contact tracing, management reports, and even an analysis for future office space. Today, we're excited to share with you a tool that we have implemented to assist us for those times when we need to access the building to perform our work. And although we're only in month 4 of our own deployment of this software, we have found thus far that office hoteling has provided co-working and shared workspaces with greater mobility, productivity, flexibility, and efficiency. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Eric Jenkins, our Section Chief over Business Services, to discuss our reservation system software.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. And as Jenny said, my name is Eric Jenkins. I'm the Section Chief over Business Services, and we are very fortunate and honored to share kind of where we are at with this reservation system with you guys today. So just kind of some housekeeping. Again, welcome everybody. A reminder, this is a Teams live event. It's slightly different from a Teams meeting that you're probably used to. This is being recorded. We plan to make that recording available on our website so other departments might benefit from the information from today's session. Also, your cameras and microphones are not connected, but we do have a chat question and answer feature off to the side that you guys can use at any time during the presentation today. And we have people working in the background that hopefully will be able to answer those questions as they come in. But we're also going to have a question and answer period at the very end that you guys can ask additional questions. So feel free to use both of those avenues as we proceed. So the agenda for today, just to kind of go over, we're going to touch on the background, our procurement, our implementation of the software. When we're going to go to a live demonstration of the software, and then we'll discuss some lessons learned, and we'll close it out again with that Q&A I discussed. So background, how did we get where we are? As Jenny discussed, in keeping with the administration's goal of increasing telework and reducing our building footprint, we recognized that we needed to utilize a hoteling concept for our workspace and do this for all cubicles, offices, conference rooms, etc. We needed a way for staff to be able to reserve the workspace and knew that for the days they would be on site, we needed to be able to track that to know and be able to implement the guidelines put forth by CDC and CDPH. But we also needed something that was able to move up and progress with our IT infrastructure and those rules and laws as they changed moving forward. So this is where we partnered with our technology division, and they ensured that we were equipped with the prerequisites we needed to implement the reservation software. And this is where we kind of discovered that, you know, we needed to evaluate, consider current laptop specs, desktop specs, depending on what you guys use in your departments, that'll be something you'll have to work through. And then the really important one here was IT security requirements. So working with your ISO office, and that was a huge one for us, being what we are for the state of California. We had some very strict guidelines we had to make sure we met. And then determining your integration platform. So I think, you know, a lot of departments now are using Office 365 and MS Teams. This software that we chose definitely integrates with that well. And then supporting internet browser needs and making sure that you had the internet browsers that worked with the software to match. So the solution, what we decided that we needed through all this was an online platform or a SaaS, allowing Fiscal to partner staff, contracted staff, and the Fiscal staff to be able to reserve cubicles, offices, conference rooms, and for us to be able to have that ability readily available no matter where they were. We definitely understand that the product that we chose is not maybe the one that you will, so we definitely encourage people to do their research and work to find the product that'll best suit your needs. But after meeting with a few of the companies and seeing kind of our objectives and theirs, we decided to go with a product called Robin. And so once we decided the product we were going for, we've figured out, what we want. How do we purchase this? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Things are changing every day. And really, this is where our procurement team stepped in and helped a lot. We procured the Robin software through the COVID exemption rather than use CMAS. We chose what they have called is a premier platform, and this included 300 desks for us, 10 conference rooms, and the ability to have unlimited users, which, as you guys are all aware listening today, many departments range in size. So we have departments as small as 20 people all the way up to thousands, and having that unlimited user ability was really important to us. And I will tell you, we got all of that for the bargain price of $18,000 a year for a subscription. So, because we are going to probably get a lot of questions regarding the procurement, we know this. We have our Chief of Procurement, Antoinette Ramirez, on with us today. So at the end, if there's any questions you have regarding the procurement, please feel free to direct those towards her. And also, I did forget somebody. I know the IT is another big one that everybody has a lot of questions regarding IT and the intricacies of how you implement something like this when it comes to the IT. Our our Deputy Director of IT, Subra Maparaju, is also on, and he will be able to answer any of those in-depth IT questions as we move forward. So we procured the product. We have it in-house. We're ready to use it. How do we launch this to our staff? Implementation was a big, important piece of this. I think the most important. We work closely with our Robin Customer Success Manager. They were the person that kind of worked back and forth on implementation and floor plan design. It was very easy to provide them our existing floor plans and have them work to make the space that we use within Robin match that. And as part of the change management as a department, training was essential to ensure that the success of this when we rolled it out was achieved. It was really important for us to have multiple sessions of training. We wanted detailed instructions on the application, lots of opportunities for questions and answers. And then ultimately, we chose to launch via an email link. It was very simple, where we just sent out an all staff with the link included. Staff clicked on the link, registered for their account, and then my team would go in the back end and be able to edit their roles and responsibilities within the program, allowing them to reserve, as you'll see here in a little bit. So now for the part you've all been waiting for, I will quit talking and I will introduce my amazing team member, Elizabeth Wood. She's going to be going over the reservation software, what it looks like, some of the most commonly used features. And we understand this is typically where we get, again, a ton of questions. So please feel free to use off to the side the chat feature, ask your questions there as they come up, but also realize at the end we will have plenty of time for question and answer if you guys have them as they come up or keep progressing. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Elizabeth.
Well, hello, good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction, Eric. As he said, my name is Elizabeth Wood. I work with the Business Services section here at Fiscal, and I'm going to be giving you kind of a brief overview of Robin, as well as demonstrating how to reserve a desk as well as a conference room. So just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at here, this main page is the home page for Robin when you log into the software. And this wonderful image we have right here is the map of the floor plan of the first floor of our building here at Fiscal. Now I know it looks pretty busy. Just to kind of give you an idea what you're looking at, these kind of larger rectangular blue spots, those are the conference rooms, and Robin likes to call them spaces, so spaces and conference rooms can be mentioned interchangeably. And then they also have the desks, which are these blue and gray icons. And then just because we have kind of a lot going on our map, as well as taking into concern that a lot of our staff isn't necessarily accustomed to reading off of a floor plan of our building, we opted to put in some kind of important landmarks that help our staff navigate what they're looking at. So for example, our east and west exterior courtyards were put on the map, as well as the restrooms, the break rooms, and even something as small as the first aid kits and elevators are actually things you can put on the map. And I think Eric mentioned that we were able to work very closely one-on-one with Robin in order to make this represent very closely what our floor plan looks like. And the customizability of that is a fantastic feature that I would kind of like to talk with you guys a bit about. So as far as like the color scheme goes, they do have a few options that you can pick from to customize that, but most of the customizability comes in on the floor plan itself. Now, just to kind of give you an example to the detail that we were working with, you can even tell the difference between a hard wall and a cubicle wall by looking at the difference in width of the lines we have on the floor plan. So for example, these hard walls mean that these are offices in this space right here, and then these would be our cubicle spaces that are available. And working with your Robin representative, if should you choose to go that route, you can do things as much as putting tables on the map. You can put plants on the map. It really depends on your needs and what makes the most sense for your staff and your floor plan. Oh, and you can also add your department logo to the Robin main page, which we thought was a nice little personalized feature. So what we chose to do for our desks as far as reservation was break them into groups, essentially. Now, I know you are kind of seeing quite a few things on the map here. I have admin privileges on my Robin account. So that allows me to not only view all the desks, I can also make modifications and edits and things like that. So I have a very large scope of the map as it is. However, most end users would only see a portion of these desks available. So for example, our IT section resides in these desks. We have admin over here, and then the other two divisions are kind of spaced along those desks. And in doing that, we aimed to make the separation kind of parallel what our badge access was for our building. So for example, if I'm just going to take us over here, just so you know, it's a nice little click and drag feature that I can move the map with, and then scrolling in allows me to zoom, which is nice and simple to use. So this region right here would be our HR suite. And I don't know about most of you guys, but for us, HR is kind of a confidential area. So we only want HR to be able to access those reservable seats. So we were able by adjusting what Robin calls roles, identify not only what division someone can reserve in, but which cubicles that they're allowed to reserve. So for this example right here, only our HR staff is allowed to reserve HR cubicles. So that's a nice function that I did want to bring to your attention. Now, before we get to the desk reservation itself, I do want to kind of bring to your attention the blue and gray desks, because I know I mentioned those before. Around the time that we were implementing Robin, as Eric mentioned, this was, of course, with the guidelines that are being put out, and we wanted to be very cognizant of that. Now, while our cubicles themselves are large enough that they did adhere to the CDC and CDPH guidelines, but we wanted to take an extra step and add a little security for our staff. So we chose to actually make it so that they could only reserve every other cubicle. Now, this was an extra precaution that we took, but we wanted to put the safety of our staff first, so that worked for us to do. Now, Eric also mentioned that we had made the goal of, I believe it was 75% of our workforce teleworking. And with the building as it is, I'm going to zoom back out here so you can get a full scope. We are actually able to hold about 30% of our workforce on site at any given time. Now, in the future, should guidelines lift and things change, we would have the opportunity to kind of reevaluate whether we wanted these desks accessible. And should we choose to, we would actually be able to accommodate over 50% of our workforce on site. So that variability and that ability to kind of alter which desks we use was a nice function that we did enjoy about Robin. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to book a desk. So the first thing you'll do is click on this little book a desk icon right here. Now, as you can see, it popped up this kind of left column, and as you can see, there's a number of different sections. There's for these are broken down by divisions as well as offices and cubicles just for our needs. And as I mentioned before, because I have the admin privilege, I can see all of them. But once someone is actually assigned their spot in their division, they would only see the cubicles that are accessible for them to reserve. So just keeping that in mind. But let's say I need to make a reservation for Monday. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the date in the top right corner here. You just click on that. It'll give you this calendar that you can choose from. And I'm going to say that I want to be in the office Monday, May 17th. I'll click that, and then Robin will refresh the page to show you the map as it's accessible on that day. So shows you the desks that you can reserve. And then I like to adjust the time I'm going to be on site, so the time I anticipate using the reservation. And for me, let's say I'm going to be there from 8:30 a.m. till 5 p.m. Adjust that time. Wonderful. And I'm going to give a click on this desk. So that looks like a good spot to reserve. So when I click on a desk, that'll give you this information window right here. And here's another facet that's really customizable and one of the features we would like to demonstrate to you guys. So we opted to put in the cubicle number, the height of the desk in inches, as well as the division that desk is associated with in this little information window. And you can put whatever you want there. That was relevant for our staff. And additionally, you'll see this little tag icon. It is on the smaller side. I apologize if that's hard to see. Pardon me. But that is the amenities section for the desk. So you can edit those as it's relevant for your department, whether it's monitors, keyboards, telephones, ergonomic equipment, special equipment, anything that's relevant to you, you can put in there. And you are actually able to search desks by that amenity, but I'll get to that in just a minute. So before we proceed, reserving the desk. So this little line right here will mark the date and time that your reservation is being scheduled for. If that matches the time you anticipated having the reservation, you would just click that blue bar there. If it's not, of course, you would adjust it. And one more reference back to the admin account. I am capable of assigning desks to other people. So when I want to reserve a desk, I actually have to type in who it's going to be for. For example, I'm going to say this desk is going to be for me, so I'll type that in there. And but for anyone who's not in admin, that would auto-populate, so they wouldn't have to go the extra step of typing in the name. That would be automatic. They would just press that blue reserve button, and they would get this window right here showing that they've confirmed the reservation. Excuse me, that they made the reservation. And if I click away, you'll see that desk changed to a dark gray, which means it's no longer accessible for reservation. And that kind of helps people keep track of where they can and where they can't go. Now, referring back to the amenities I'd mentioned. Now, let's say that you have a reasonable accommodation and you need an ergonomic workspace. Well, at Fiscal, we have the ability to search by ergonomic desks. So I would click that amenities button right here at the top, and it's going to give you the drop-down menu. Now, if you had more to go through here, you could search through them or you could scroll through them, but of course we only have 2 listed as they're relevant for us. So we're just going to go ahead and click that checkbox next to the ergonomic desk setting or amenity, excuse me, and click apply. So what that does is it refreshes the page to show you only the desks that have the amenity you selected. So for example, I'll click on this desk for you, and you can see in the amenities section, it has that Varidesk sit stand, the ergonomic desk. And if I clicked on this one, you'd be able to see it as well as all the other ones. So if you need that, you would just change the date and time as you did previously and make the reservation. So no other changes would be needed for that. And then after that, I will show you how to reserve a conference room. So we're going to take it back to that main page. I just exited it out of the column that was up there. And I'm going to click this Find a Space button. So what that's going to do is going to take everything else off the map except for the conference rooms at Fiscal that I can reserve. Now you can either search by date or search by conference room, whatever's easiest for you. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to say that I want to make a meeting for Wednesday, May 19th. I'm going to go there and it'll show me all the conference rooms I have available. I can adjust the time I want to start. Let's say I want my meeting to be at 10 a.m. for a half hour. So this will change the information in that left-hand column for you as well. And if you'll kind of notice, they have some information about as far as how many people it can accommodate, as well as any other amenities that conference room may have. So you can search through those and look through that information. And you can also go through these up here, which offer some more customizability as far as what's included in your conference rooms, how you search for your conference rooms. So that's a nice feature. Now, let's say I want to reserve Diamond at 10 a.m. So I see the little green icon there that has 10 a.m. I'm going to give it a click and it'll bring up this window right here. Now here you can name the event, you can make it private, you can adjust the date, the time, you can add a description to the meeting in case you need to add a few notes, and you can even invite people to the meeting. For example, if I want Eric to come to the meeting, I can type in his name, it'll auto-populate, and I can tell him I want him to be invited to the meeting. And you can do that with your coworkers, your managers, whatever you need to do. But and once you fill out that information, you would click book now. I'm just gonna exit out that one because I don't need that meeting. But I think that's all I have to show you for now. So without further ado, I'll pass that back to Eric. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Let me jump back on here, folks. And hopefully everyone can see my screen again. So we've given you a little demonstration on the system. We've talked about some background. So now we have the product in-house and we're using it, and we need to be able to get some information from it to further evaluate how we proceed forward with the ever-changing times. And that's where I think the analytics comes in. We definitely wanted the ability to determine space usage, frequency, kind of duration, and use that information to help make data-driven decisions moving forward. And what does that mean? Well, it's how often are employees coming into the office? What days of the week? How long are they staying? Do we have adequate space? Do we need more space? Do we need less space? And so how did we get this data? Well, with Robin, they have two features. They have their reporting feature and then they have their daily roster. So the reporting feature is an actual data dump. It happens the day following any previous day. So if you need information for a week, you would need to wait till that Saturday or Sunday, depending on how you set up your work weeks. And you could dump that data into an Excel spreadsheet. And you can set date parameters, time parameters. You can do it by groups. There's a lot of availability in that data that you're getting. So it's pretty raw in format. The other option is your daily roster. Now that's a feature that we didn't go into, but it does provide you a look at who is scheduled for that day, who is in the office, who has gone in and left. And it's all kind of in that daily roster, which is a very valuable tool for more real-time data, if that makes sense. So lessons learned, we wanted to wrap it up by sharing some of the highlights, as well as some of the challenges that we think any department that may face when implementing a software platform like this. And I'm sure you all have a ton of questions. So highlights for us. Things that we found right off the bat that really made sense to us. The map is simple, it's easy to navigate, as you saw, with a few steps involved in reserving workspaces, kind of point and click, which is really user friendly. Helpful features for the admins, easy to view the employee data and export it. The ease of inviting new employees. So when you have new employees onboarding, sending them a link in an email where they can register for their own account, and then you can go in and edit those roles and responsibilities to allow them to reserve certain areas and not others. And then the customer service is very responsive. It's 24/7, which is great. And they have a chat feature that you literally can type in, and within 1 to 2 minutes, you'll get a reply and start conversating back and forth with somebody in the software support team. It's visually appealing. And then the last thing was the unlimited users. Again, for us, that was huge, being able to kind of expand this or shrink it as needed and not being charged according to how many users we have in the system, but more in the actual spaces, which for us may change, may not, and same for you guys moving forward. So the challenges, here's the part that nobody really likes to talk about, right? What was the hard stuff? Well, we want you to learn from our mistakes or our hardships that we went through. The exported data, like I talked about previously, it's a data dump, right? So you're getting all this information into Excel, and then you've got to sort through and create formulas and stuff to use it. And it takes some effort. The biggest problem with it is it's in coordinated universal time. So you're not able to adjust it in the application. So it's all UTC. So you've got to go in and create a formula to do the conversion to Pacific Standard Time, for example. So that wasn't too hard, but we definitely wanted to reach out to our Excel wizards here to get help with that. The reservation start time, it can't be retroactive. So if you forget to make a reservation and you show up at work at, say, at 8 o'clock and it's now 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. and you forgot to make your reservation, you can't retroactively go back into the system and schedule it. So you've got to just start it where you are currently. So that's kind of an issue. And then, not being able to run analytics in real time. So that's kind of a challenge that I talked about, but you do have that in the daily roster. So that's kind of some of the things we learned, and we hope that it helps you guys in your information moving forward. And so now we get to the question and answer period. I'm not able to see the questions yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have. And I'll turn it over to Jenny, I think, who's going to go through some of the questions here, and we'll get some of them answered by our specialists.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. I'm here to help you. So I put on the reading glasses. I'm ready. First question that we want to talk about is, let's consolidate some of these. Can you talk about how our department handled some of the confidential files? How we determined how our space was going to be used within the certain areas on our floor plan, Eric?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we took this as an opportunity through some of our phases of implementation and getting ready for changing. And we had staff come in, maintain social distancing, so we did offset schedules. And we had them work to go through their files, because I know if you guys are anything like me, if it's on paper and it's important, I'm going to keep it and I'm going to find somewhere for it in my office. So when you get into a situation like this where you know that space needs to be efficient and it needs to be calculated and only keeping things on paper that really need to be on paper, you realize really quick how much stuff can either go to state archives or get confidentially shredded or go in a waste bin. So we scheduled time to have staff come in. We had worked with recyclers to come on site, provide their bins. And we also had bins that we provided staff in-house. So we basically broke it down into sections and said, okay, if it's recycle, it's not confidential, it goes in this bin. If it's confidential, it needs to be shredded, it goes in this secured, waste, which we had several of those with the lock and key and all that. And then if it's archive, here's the boxes for archiving. You guys know how to do that and work with your, archive coordinators in the respective divisions to get that done. The other part of that is then storage, right? So for us, we were downsizing. We were taking a 2-floor and making it into 1. So then we took all of our storage options from the 2nd floor and worked with leadership to find the designated areas. And part of that was emailing with the deputy directors and conversing with them, finding out what are your guys' needs? Do you really need 12 of these double stacked storage container, file drawers? Or with what you guys have left, do you think you can get away with 2 of them? And then working with our space planners to develop where these were going to go in the office while maintaining ADA requirements and making sure we're, dealing with social distancing and not making, walkways down to 12 inches where people are having to squeeze by because they can't get through because we've crammed so much stuff into a space. So I hope that answers your question. If I missed anything, please feel free to speak up.
Great, thank you, Eric. Okay, it looks like we've got some procurement questions here, so I'm going to ask Antoinette to step in here. Antoinette, would you be able to provide anybody that's interested a list of the companies that we had a demo with?
Yes, I'll have to look back at the companies that we received demos from, and I can provide that list to that person. Absolutely.
Great. And did Robin have a CMAS contract? I know we procured using the COVID exemption, but is it available through CMAS?
It is not. I have not found, the last I checked with any of the LPAs, I did not find any reservation type system on an LPA. You know, kind of hoping for a renewal that DGS may be working on an LPA to put a reservation system software on there, but they are not.
Okay, great. And then I'm not sure, perhaps you may be able to answer this best, or maybe it's Eric, but regarding the annual subscription, did it include professional services, or was that separate?
Oh gosh, I believe it did, as far as them assisting Fiscal with ramping up to utilize the system and helping us with the floor plans and putting it in. From what I recall, yes, it did.
Okay, great. And then one last one, I think, in your wheelhouse, Antoinette, maybe not, but does anybody have handy the number of DES users that our subscription came with? I think you touched on it, Eric, but yeah. Could you just go over that real quickly again?
Yeah, so the subscription package that we got was 300 desks, which are cubicles, office desks, whatever you choose to make them, and then 10 spaces, which can be utilized as booking areas, reservation areas for groups of people. So the spaces, think of spaces as conference rooms and desks as cubicles or offices. And so we got 300 desks, 10 spaces, and then unlimited users.
Okay, and I'm gonna, there's several on the building, so I'm gonna get back to you in a moment because I'm gonna let our CIO talk a little bit because folks are questioning whether or not this is available through an app. Savaro, can you give us a little bit more information on that?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, Robin has apps for iOS and Android, as well as an app for Microsoft Teams. You sign into the app the same way you sign into Robin powered through the browser. At the end of the Robin powered URL, you will have your own domain name. Use that domain name to log into the app through your mobile phone as well. It will take you to the same authentication provider. In our case, it's Microsoft Active Directory Federation Services. So you use the same ID and password to log into Robin through your Android or iOS. The view will be slightly different. It is customized for the mobile form factor. You have separate list views and map views. You saw Elizabeth demonstrate how the map view works. On the left side of that screen, you saw the list view of list of the spaces available. In mobile phone, you see those two things separately. Map view is a little different from list view. You can reserve your spaces either way. You can use all the features that you can use from the browser through the mobile apps as well.
Perfect. And does the product provide out-of-the-box integration with Outlook? And is there any other applications that we integrated Robin with?
At this point, we only integrated with Microsoft Teams. That is our preferred communication and collaboration platform at Fiscal. And we integrated with Outlook You saw Elizabeth show how to book a space. It throws a pop-up window where you can say, I want this meeting room reserved from this time to this time. You can invite people. When you book a space that way, that is synchronized back to your Outlook. You can see that in your Outlook calendar as a meeting that you booked. If you do it in Outlook, it does not synchronize to Robin. We haven't configured it that way.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Sabaro. Okay, Eric, let's see here. Where do we get started? Can you limit the search only to people with special needs that can view accessible cubes? So is there reasonable accommodation features that, you know, without violating private information, that those that need a reasonable accommodation could be the only ones to see that?
Yeah, so in the roles responsibility section, kind of where Elizabeth touched on being able for user access and such, you can regulate that down and make it as specific as you want, or you can make it as broad. So, you know, one of the things we did right off the bat was go in and change the default setting to be not everything everywhere. The default user setting for access when you first open this program up and get involved with it, you'll notice that that default booking role is open and it allows them to do anything. So we went in right away in that one user setting and we changed that to nothing. So basically they didn't get any access. That allowed us a time from when people signed in and created their account to then go in and based off our employee roster, look at who they were, where they were, work with HR, and make sure that we had the right areas, settings, and availabilities of ergonomic workspaces or specific cube heights and such. So that's all things you got to take into account when you're designing out your space plan. And that's definitely something we work with leadership and HR on, because we've got to have certain areas that are equipped for staff with reasonable accommodations, with ergonomic needs, and not every department is, you know, got ergonomic options in every single cube yet at a lot of them. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Now going back to the roles feature itself, can you lock down the roles to not only to division or section, but can you do it down to the individual person?
Yeah, absolutely. You can choose, and that's really a neat feature. You can choose. So if let's say everybody's got an HR division, right, or an HR office. So if your HR office has several sections within it, and you know that everybody in there needs to be able to book, you know, space, but you don't want certain HR staff going into certain sections within that HR. You can narrow down those user accounts to where they can only book certain cubicles in specific areas in your HR office. But yeah, you can go down into each individual account if you guys had the time to do that. And we kind of made time to do that because we're a smaller department, which was nice, but you can also do it on a bigger scale. So if you know everybody in HR needs to be able to reserve all of HR, you can take that entire group and make a group role that applies to everybody in that group. And then if you wanted to go even farther, you can dive into that group and then go into specific people in that group and modify their roles and responsibilities even further. So there's a lot of ability to modify, increase, decrease, restrict, everything. So it's very, very user friendly.
Perfect. Okay. And can you talk about kind of what we have provided each of our office and cubicles? What are they equipped with currently? For instance, monitors, cameras, things like that.
Yeah, so what we found was the basic needs. Fortunately, Fiscal uses only laptops, so we don't really have many desktops anymore for staff. So we provided each desk area or cubicle area with a docking station, 2 monitors, and then obviously things like keyboard tray, mouse, mouse pads, ergonomic type equipment. And then even further from that, knowing the kind of the situation we're in with the pandemic, we have what we call sanitation stations throughout the floor that are setups of where people have wipes and sprays and gloves and things to kind of sanitize the area before they use it and then also after they use it. So that's something kind of we implemented.
Oh, glad you brought that up because there was a question on that. So can you talk about a little bit about our cleaning protocols?
Yeah, so that was a huge part of this, as everybody knows and is probably dealt with already. If you have a property management, you probably know all of them by their first name now through this pandemic. I know that we have worked closely with them in increasing and modifying the janitorial cleaning schedules. And then on top of that, we also put some of the responsibility on our staff, right? So you know how clean you like your stuff, you know how, we have, everybody's got germaphobes and we have ours. And I think a lot of us have developed into that a little bit through this pandemic, but we provided the necessities to the staff to be able to sanitize their areas, things like alcohol wipes, sanitizing wipes, gloves to glove up while they're doing it, sprays for big surfaces and countertops. And that's what I talk about, the sanitation areas. And then implementing, the all staffs and the communications around that. That is your responsibility when you come in. Don't assume somebody cleaned that cubicle. Take it upon yourself to do the cleaning. Then you know it's done right and you don't have to worry. But again, when you go to leave that day, make sure you wipe it down, be considerate of others and respectful of, other people's health and safety and wipe it down again just to get that extra layer. And that all comes from the communication. You have to make sure that you're communicating this out to your staff when you're prepping and getting this all kind of ramped up and going through the steps.
Perfect. Okay. Question about our user availability. Did we have to provide all the users before going live, or did each user create their own account? Sorry, I didn't catch that one before. I would have included it when you were talking about roles and responsibilities.
No problem. So yeah, so the way we rolled it out, you guys can do it any way you want. There's actually several avenues to roll this software out to people. The easiest one for us was because people have schedules, right? They're all on people have vacations. Some people might be working an RDO schedule. They might not be in, they might be sick. The easiest for us was to roll out a very informative all staff. And in that all staff at the bottom was a link. That link could be clicked at any point, any time within the time you sent it to 2-3 weeks away if they were on vacation. As soon as they click that link, it takes them to a screen where they register for their account. As soon as they register for the account, we would then be able to see that through the system itself, which we would monitor. And normally, if we were slower than 5 minutes of getting them set up, we got an email, hey, I just registered and I can't book. So that the staff was very helpful in reminding us as soon as they registered, because if it took them a week or 3 days, man, we got those emails right away. And it's seconds. Once you have this set up in the background, when somebody registers, you go in and basically are dragging and dropping clearances. It's literally that simple. And so, somebody like when, let's take Elizabeth, for example, she works in business services, she's under administration division. When she registered, all I had to do as the admin, the only one at that time, was go in, give her admin access, give her BSO access, and give her administration access. And then she was able to book the areas that needed to book within the system. So it's very user friendly. And the other end of that too is if you have a CSV file of all your staff, let's say you're a big department like DGS and you've got 4,000 staff, you could load all those at your leisure and modify those within the system as you go. So you could take groups. So you could take the administration division, you could take, one of their other division, the HR division, and you could categorize those and then give them the applicable roles and then put them into the system all at once. And then everybody that you loaded would be able to access. So there's several different ways, but the support team is very helpful with that as well. So
great. And does it track the invites sent within the application itself? For instance, do you know if you've sent somebody a link and they haven't registered to use Robin yet?
The way we did it, no, but there is a way within the system to do that. So and Elizabeth might actually be able to speak to that a little more if you need.
There we go, just had to unmute myself. Hello again. As far as to speak for this one, you can send out kind of individual invitations to people. I know Eric mentioned the CSV file, which is really helpful for uploading a bulk amount of people, and how we also did our just kind of shoot out email, which offered people the option to create their account when they were available. But if you have a specific person, for example, you have staff onboarding, you can send them the invitation in advance. And in your master list of people, they will show up, and it'll actually have kind of like this blue lettering next to it that makes it stand out. And it says like invite sent, but until they register the account, their profile is going to have that listed there. So you can pick out who does not have their account created. And one thing I did want to mention on that front, one of the helpful features of individually inviting people is that you can assign their roles prior to them starting their account. So that's a nice feature of doing the individual invitations.
Great. Liz, while I have you, how easy is it for you to locate fellow team members in the application?
So you can either use the daily roster, which is pretty helpful for finding people when they're on site, or honestly, the easiest way to do it is to look at the map and look for the ones that are grayed out. And if you know kind of the region your teammates should be sitting, you can kind of look in that area and say, who's this gray desk? Oh, it's Ruben, or it's Eric. And so that's a helpful feature, but there isn't a really like list that you can look at that makes it quite so streamlined.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have some questions that are very they're individualized to a specific department that we will take offline and contact that department. They're very specific to their individual need and situation. We did get a few questions about how receptive our employees were to this hoteling concept, and I'm going to do my best to tackle this one. So, change management, as everybody knows, can be very difficult. There are emotions involved, there are attachments involved to workstations, to offices. Communication was key for us. We started long before we actually piloted our program, and our director was extremely supportive of our concepts, made sure that she discussed it in our all staff meetings. We encouraged our managers and supervisors to have further discussions in their own team meetings, and really get that employee buy-in on the concept that one, we were trying to reduce our footprint. We were also trying to save with the reduction of lease space, and really we were partnering with other state agencies on best methods and practices to carry out the administration's goal of trying to get state departments to be able to telework in some capacity up to 75%. So, a lot of fair and honest conversation with the staff about the steps we were going to take, the plans that we were making, how were we going to do it, involving them, allowing plenty of time for question and answers, and also giving them an opportunity and an email box to ask questions they may think of when they're not in the meetings or not, having these discussions in all staff. So while it may have been harder on others, we really tried to embrace that these are all good things. We are evolving, the workplace is evolving, how we do business is going to continue to change, and not just with Fiscal, but statewide. So, there are some challenges there, but overall, we were sure to do a telework survey prior to us implementing a pilot program. We do 6-month check-ins with telework survey to see how things are going, and as we learn things that we can add to our survey to get a better idea of how things are going for others. And we also do an annual employee satisfaction survey in which we ask further questions on telework and how is engagement with your team. How involved do you feel? Do you still feel, your role is critical to our mission and vision? What are your collaborative approaches? You know, and we're constantly looking at collaboration software to maximize that experience, right? I think Sabaro mentioned, our CIO mentioned, we chose Microsoft Teams as our collaboration software. And so we make a point to look into further apps that we can integrate and use with our employees. So it's a package deal. And, you know, I do wish you the best of luck through your transition. And we are available if you have any questions outside of our reservation system, just general questions on our pilot program. We're happy to share our lessons learned. And did you want to mention anything else, Eric, before we wrap up?
No, I think we pretty much covered anything. These are great questions today. I really appreciate everybody's time. I hope you enjoyed this session and we provided enough information. But like we said, we will be posting this video for further reference for other people, and you can always reach out to us for further questions as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you everyone for your time.
Bye-bye all.